Hello, everybody, and hello. How are you all? This is really exciting. Today I've got guests. Yes! And I was thinking I'm leaving Jersey because it's a little bit small and I want to find a bigger place where, you've got loads of things going on. And actually, I think Dubai, it really is a Jersey in turbo. Because I met Jenny through somebody else who was through somebody else who was through somebody else. And it just seems that in Dubai, everybody know each other, Jenny, right?
Hi, Claire. Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's very much who you know in this place rather than what you know. So, networking is absolutely key.
Okay, that sounds like a really good plan. So, Jenny, just so we can talk about actually what you do, because we got in touch together to actually look at my visa and how can I actually come and work in Dubai, because there's a lot of all thinking that we need a sponsor, that we need some amount of money in a bank and all that kind of things. And so you've been in Dubai for how long?
12 years now.
12 years now. So you just went like that on a few months and then 12 years later you're still there.
That's very common here.
Uh, and so your business, so your organization help people like me and anybody who actually wants to relocate to Dubai to do all the paperwork. But is that what, Gateway UK is?
In essence, yes.
Okay.
So we help individuals and organisations to get licensed to operate their businesses here, whether it's in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, and then everything that's associated with that. So residence visas, if they need special permits for their particular type of business. And for a new organisation or for an individual that's coming into the UAE, and particularly if it's their first time of being abroad, either living abroad as an expat or doing any type of business abroad, it's really, really daunting. And trying to understand the paperwork, trying to find your way around the different government departments, understanding the processes, it can be extremely frustrating, and you can get really quite anxious as well because you don't necessarily know whether you're doing the right thing, and the more questions you ask, the more confused you can become because people will give you different answers, what your term plans are, and understand your current situation in terms of visas, whether you're coming on your own, whether you're bringing family, whether you're going to have employees, etc. Really understanding the bigger picture so that we can guide you as to what's going to be the best type of business license for your situation, and then obviously assist with the visas as well.
Yeah, because I think when I started looking at it, and I was looking at there's different zones, isn't it, in Dubai? So you've got quite a lot of advertising about free zone, and get a visa for a free zone, and it just all seems very attractive, but it's not as easy or attractive actually to be in a free zone, is it?
It depends on what you're looking to do. So the free zones are absolutely fabulous for certain types of businesses,
Okay.
and they are attractive from the perspective of with a visa with a free zone, you get your visa issued for 3 years at a time, whereas if you are working outside of the free zone, they're only for 2 years. So
Ah.
there are little advantages and disadvantages all the way, and you want to be working, for example, across the whole of Dubai, then you really need to be looking at a mainland license because that's going to give you the most flexibility to ultimately work with whoever you want to.
Right, and also government body. I think that's what I understood as well. If you wanted to work with the government at some point, the mainland visa is probably a better option.
Absolutely, yeah. So having mainland license enables you to work directly with the government. And if you are wanting government departments or government entities and you need the mainland license, then you'll need to actually go through a supplier registration process with each of those entities that you want to do business with. And you'll also need to register with the Ministry of Finance because over the last few years, as the government has increasingly digitised here, their payments now all go through, or their invoicing all goes through the Ministry of Finance. And so you need to have a mainland company in order to register there.
Right.
So that was a great point.
Mm. And so do you have, because we also talked about setting up a business as such, or setting up as a sole trader as such, is that such a difference that, or do you still have to set up a business anyway?
Okay, so different types of business licenses and business structures, and then setting up as a sole trader is quite a new thing. Restrictions with those are requiring you to have premises, requiring you to have an Emirati local sponsor or local partner. But what we've seen over the last couple of years is new license types coming out, particularly to help entrepreneurs and also to attract foreign direct investment into the country. And they seem to have really adapted to make it easier, make it more cost effective for those types of individuals who are going to be maybe initially working on their own, or perhaps as a side business, as a side hustle, setting something up, or perhaps they are a one-man band that is never going to have employees and work with anyone else, and they just want to keep something really small. And traditionally, sort of anywhere else in the world, a new company setting up is quite often started around a kitchen table or in a spare room. And you're trying to keep your costs as low as you possibly can until you start earning the money. And there isn't a need for a nice fancy office or a warehouse or whatever. So now there are license types that can be obtained here where you don't need to have the commercial premise, and they're much cheaper. So for example, the freelance license in Abu Dhabi, it's not available in Dubai, unfortunately. That is one of these types of licenses, and that's open to professionals who have got a particular skill, ideal for somebody who's setting up something brand new, or who is just going to be perhaps working on their own, or perhaps a housewife. Quite often we see families come over, the husband's got the high-flying executive job, the wife's given up her job overseas and has come over with the children, but she would have been highly skilled overseas and working, but perhaps doesn't want to take on an employee role here. It's a great and cost-effective way for that person to perhaps keep her skills up to date and have a little business of her own.
Mm. So there are seven um, it's Emirati or region?
Um, okay, there's 7 Emirates,
Emirates,
and
sorry,
those
seven
are,
Emirates.
yeah. So the country is the United Arab Emirates, and it's made up of the 7 Emirates. And so the history behind those is the UAE's got a tribal history. So the tribes all managed their own areas. And then back in 1972, the sort of the big areas all came together and created the United Arab Emirates. So
Ah,
the biggest two and the most two well known are Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
mhm.
And the really confusing part, if you're not familiar with it, is the Emirates of Abu Dhabi and Dubai, also their capital cities are Abu Dhabi and Dubai as well. So you've got Dubai City and Dubai Emirate, and Abu Dhabi City and Abu Dhabi Emirate.
So if you have a license, can you work in any of the Emirates, or is this specifically for one city?
Okay, so the licenses are issued by jurisdiction or by emirate. So if you're getting a free zone license, your license covers you to work in that particular free zone or with overseas companies. Now, there has been talk on and off over the years about the free zones not amalgamating, but sort of getting MOUs in place, whereas if you have a license in one, it will enable you to operate in another. But as far as I'm aware, that hasn't come to fruition yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if it does at some point in the future. And it would make sense for that to happen. But if you do have a free zone license and you are wanting to operate on the mainland, as we call it, you can now get what's called a dual license, and that gives you a mainland company license, which is an extension of your existing free zone license. Does
Oh,
that
I
make
see.
sense? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. No, it does make sense. And it's really actually, for anybody coming in, it just does seem that it's quite complicated in the the process.
It
So having
can
somebody
be.
like
It
you,
can be totally.
and so it's really having somebody like you, it's a blessing, right?
Well, my job is really to make sure that you get the most appropriate license for your situation. But
Mm,
just going back to answer your previous question in just a little bit more detail, um, the mainland licenses are issued by Emirate. So if you are wanting to work in Dubai, you would get a Dubai license. If you're wanting to work in Abu Dhabi, you would get an Abu Dhabi license. If you're working across multiple Emirates, then more than likely you're going to need more than one license. So that's not uncommon as well. And that will then potentially dictate what type of structure you will set up as your business, because how you expand across the Emirates, you can do it more cost effectively using different types of structures. So that's where somebody like myself or our organisation, the Gateway Group, can really add value. If we're working with an organisation that's coming in, maybe the intention is initially to only be working in Dubai, but they do know that at some point in the future they're going to expand into one of the other Emirates. And it's good for us to understand that up front, because we can advise them the advantages and the disadvantages of setting up with a particular structure up front, because it is going to impact then how they expand later on.
mm. Yeah, so having a plan and having a business plan really is important. So you've got kind of an idea and a vision of what you're going to do and actually be able, is that something that is being asked? What kind of document do you actually need if you're applying for a license from abroad? So being an expat from the UK, that what kind of documents do you need? Because again, that's you need to do that in advance, don't you, before you get there?
Yeah. Yeah, being prepared is absolutely key. So anybody that's coming across as an individual, as the minimum, you're going to need your education certificates. I would say your highest education certificate. So if you've got a degree or a master's, bachelor's, whatever, get that attested, and then apostilled at the Foreign and Commonwealth Office if you're in the UK, or your overseas ministry for whichever country you're in, their equivalent. And then it will also need to go for stamping at the UAE's Ministry of Foreign Affairs in your country as well. And that's before you actually come into the UAE. Now, if you're an organisation, you'll be needing to do something similar, but it will be relating to your corporate documentation. So things like your corporate registration license, your memorandum and articles of association, and documents that will be drafted in relation to setting up your new entity in the UAE. So things like powers of attorney, board resolutions, things like that. And again, those are all documents that we can assist with, help put together, and then advise you where to go and what actually needs to be done with those before you come into the country.
Mm. Yes, definitely. I think it feels very much that having some proper guidance in doing it would save a lot of time and money in actually, going through you than actually doing it yourself, and then you ending up not being able to get the right thing and needing other things, and then it could be quite stressful. Is there a limit of time that you can actually be in the UAE without a license as such?
Well, for you to actually be operating as a business, you need to have the license in place up
Okay,
front. So
okay.
you shouldn't be working without a license. In terms of having a visa, we're just on the cusp of the visa regulations changing. So, I mean, you and I spoke quite a while ago initially, and since we spoke, there's been a huge overhaul of the visas in the UAE, and those changes are due to come in place at the start of September. So when we're working with new clients that are coming in needing visas either for themselves, for their employee, their family members, the thing that's most important to us is to really understand their timeline as to when they're going to be in country, when they're going to potentially be traveling, because you are going to need to be in the UAE for a certain period of time once that visa process starts. And if you end up having to exit for any reason, you will negate the whole process and need to start again. And obviously that's time and money wasted, so we don't want to do that. And at the moment, for example, in Dubai, over the last sort of previous maybe 2 or 3 months, there's been a delay with the processing of Emirates IDs. So it was announced that the visa is no longer going to be stamped into passports, as has traditionally been the case.
Okay.
What used to happen is you'd get your visa in the passport, and then about a week later you'd get a physical card, a bit like a credit card, which would be your Emirate ID card, so your identity card, which all residents and citizens have here. So it was announced that the visa is going to be incorporated into the Emirates ID card. And that has happened in Abu Dhabi, but there's been delays up in Dubai, and getting appointments to even have the appointment for giving your biometrics to process the Emirates ID card have been totally booked out. So, I mean, at least a month in advance. Sometimes we've heard up to 6 weeks in advance. So there's been a huge delay on getting those issued. Obviously, systems have been put into place to sort of enable people to come in, process visas in Dubai, and not then have to wait here 6 weeks to complete the process. But it's just understanding those things as they happen and being able to explain to somebody who's not familiar with the process, look, this is what's happening, this is the impact on you. How are we going to work this out based upon your particular timeframes and availability ultimately?
And I think they all.
And I think that.
Sorry.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think that's one of the things that's actually critical for any new person coming into Dubai is come with lots of patience, understand up front that things change and things change very quickly, and they can often change also without notice as well. So the fact that we've got notice about all of this happening is really good. But that can also add to your frustration as well, on top of the whole moving experience and the fact that you're changing your life. Also trying to sort of understand what happens with your visa processing, and oh my goodness, there's changes happening as well. I can't cope with all of that. Giving that headache to somebody else to manage on your behalf just takes away that additional pressure.
Yes. That freedom of knowing that somebody who knows what to do can do it for you. And that's why you and I are going to be best friends from now on. Really, Jenny, you are really the person on the ground who can really help and guide and hold hands. Really, that's what you want, isn't it? It's that holding hand, knowing now you're safe and somebody's going to really guide you and do right. You do this, you do that, and then we need to do this, and then we need to do that. So you've got that less worry on everything else.
Absolutely. And so, for example, our team in the office will keep you updated on a daily basis of what they're doing once they've received your documents, so that you know that your visa is going through the process. And then during your visa application, it's going to be necessary for you to have a medical screening and also give your biometrics to get an Emirates ID card. Now, what that involves, just as a quick aside, is you get asked a few medical questions just to check that you're in good health. You get an X-ray, and you also get a blood test. And then in terms of giving your biometrics for your Emirates ID, it's fingerprints, and they also give us in the past, I believe. Different things, I can't remember. I think fingerprints and eye scan that you give. I remember when I first came into the UAE and got my first visa done, it was quite daunting going to the medical. I mean, this is before Emirates IDs even existed. And the medical processes have changed over the years, thank goodness. But I had a horrible experience, and I'm not even going to tell you what happened because I don't want to put you off, because it definitely will not happen to you. but because I've had that experience, I know how daunting it can be for people that have never had to think about visas and things before. So I think that also positions us well, that we can be understanding of your situation. We can be empathetic with you as well. We've been there ourselves. We know exactly what it's like. So if we can remove the pressure and the anxiety, then that's perfect.
So there'll be a medical to be done. You'll be able to sort out appointments, and then there'll be your biometrics that needs to be done. And again, once that's done, then you get your Emirates. So really, we have a license for the business. Then you need your visa. Then you'll get your Emirate ID, and you're pretty much there, right? That's about it. Once you've got this, then you can open up a bank account, isn't it? You need to kind of wait until
Yes.
one and it's done by the
Yeah.
others. It can't be done from the UK
Yes.
with a bank account, can it?
No, and unfortunately, that is going to have to be the last thing, because they are going to need your Emirates ID as part of the documentation that you're going to need to give when opening the account. So yes, you're going to have to wait on that one.
Okay, well, whew. we've got to know each other so well by the end of the process. But Jenny, it's been amazing. So tell us, where can people find you and connect with you? I know you do a lot of social media as well, which is really cool. And then I'll put the link of your website. Just tell us again, what's your website?
Okay, so our web's gateway to TOUAE, as in we are your gateway to the UAE.
Okay, so www.gateway2uae.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can use gateway to Dubai or gateway to Abu Dhabi. All three of them work.
Excellent, excellent. And they can follow you on social media as well. You giving loads of newsletter and update. I'm always liking it. I'm following you on
Oh,
Instagram as
thank
well.
you.
And it's always great. You know, I'll kind of look at it thinking, oh, and what about this? And one last thing, there was something that I've seen, which is the golden visa, right? That's quite new and exciting. I'm thinking, oh, golden visa, that sounds like me. And just tell us quickly, what is the golden visa?
Okay, so the Golden Visa, again, it's part of the country's initiative to attract foreign direct investment here. So it's really aimed at people who are investing perhaps in property and at certain levels. So we're talking higher value properties, or at individuals who have got specialist skills and are really at the top of their game. So they're really looking at attracting like the top talent into the country. And then it also is applicable to perhaps top students. So students that are in the real sort of high categories in the top percentages of their classes. And if you are lucky enough to be fitting the criteria for a golden visa, the real benefit of it is that it's valid for 10 years. So it enables you to have the real stability of settling down roots here. There are other visa options for shorter periods. The most common one is 2 years. That's what most people have here. So a lot of celebrities have applied for these golden visas, also high net worth business owners and high net worth individuals that are investing in properties here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, maybe in a few months' time, we'll be applying for a new one for me.
That would be fantastic.
Excellent. Well, Jenny, thank you so much. It was just fabulous to speak to you and share some of those golden nuggets that we need to actually, if anybody's looking at moving to the UAE, you are the woman to go to.
Thank you so much. And we can't wait for you to come over and start the process, because I know you're going to document it.
Yeah.
And so so you can actually see firsthand for yourself where the frustrations come in and obviously how we can help you through those.
Definitely. This will be a to be continued episode when I'm out there, and we'll
Fantastic.
be sharing some of the videos when I'm having the medical done. Hopefully, it won't be as bad as yours and all that kind of thing. So it'd be really cool just to continue that conversation. Thank you, Jenny. Have a fabulous day.
Fantastic.
See you soon.
Thank you. Take care. Best of luck with everything. Bye now.